Where are some of the spookiest places? Part 2. I'm Nathan, musician, spent 13 years in the funeral profession. You are here because you stumbled upon this channel. Thank you for being here. Click the bell so you can stay updated when I release content exclusive here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe because we're always talking about music and funeral-related things, spooky things. This past spooky season has been filled with some of the scariest places, and this is what we're talking about today. You could Google any list of spookiest places, scariest places, most haunted places, and the number one place that will pop up every single time is Savannah, the city, Georgia, the state. Savannah, Georgia is arguably one of the most spookiest places as a whole in the United States of America, from the cemeteries to the history itself, cobblestone streets and all of the buildings. There's so much history. There's so many stories surrounding this place, in particular, Savannah. And in Savannah is Bonaventure Cemetery. This cemetery is arguably one of the scariest places within Savannah, Georgia itself. And if you travel outside of Georgia and you go just a little further, you're going to end up in Florida. St. Augustine, Florida has the St. Augustine Lighthouse. The lighthouse there, it is arguably one of the scariest places. If you have heard anything about the three little sisters who were riding a rail cart, because in 1873 there was more construction happening to this lighthouse that is still standing today. I have witnessed with my own eyes this place, this big lighthouse. And what a lighthouse does is it sits usually on the coast of, and it guides ships, and that's how there's correspondence. And in 1873, during a construction project, these little girls in the cart are riding the rail cart. Normally the piece of wood, there's this large piece of wood, you've seen them in cartoons, that stop the cart, wasn't there. So the three sisters and their friend went into the water. The cart flips over on top of them, and the little girls, all four of them, die. And since then, there have been sighting after sighting after sighting in St. Augustine at the lighthouse itself. Yes, it's one of the scariest places on our Part 2 list. And then, of course, in nearly my backyard, I'm from Owensboro, Kentucky, an hour and a half from Louisville, Kentucky, where Waverly Hills Sanatorium is. Waverly Hills was built during the big tuberculosis outbreak. It was such a large, and still stands, this facility was so large, it had its own post office, it had its own staff that lived there. The doctors and the nurses did not leave. And at the peak of tuberculosis, they were caring for thousands and thousands of people who died. And there is a body chute that would help transport, not reverently, but transport the deceased loved ones from the area in which they were being cared for once they died, to get them out of the way, for lack of better words, so that they could tend to those who were still alive. And there have been sightings, there have been these ill feelings. People who actually step foot on the grounds become physically sick. They hear sound after sound. You can actually pay for an overnight paranormal experience for $1,000. You can stay the night there. No, thank you. During Halloween, it's been a super popular thing for a long time. And if you're up for that, that's one of the scariest places in the United States. No, thank you. No, thank you. I went to a scary place once. Actually, in Alabama, there's homes that were once owned by slave owners, and there's tons of activity surrounding these homes, arguably because of the activity itself, right? During a time where it probably wasn't a loving area. And then Louisiana is also a known state to have tons of paranormal activity, and it's arguably a very spooky, scary place overall at nighttime, walking along and amongst the cemeteries. They have to bury, or they bury their loved ones differently, because the swamp, the loved one not going so much in the ground, they bury on top of the ground in above ground mausoleums. It's very interesting walking the grounds at nighttime. I've put it on a bucket list to say I want to go and walk those cemeteries. Speaking of, any cemetery at night would be considered a very scary place, because you don't see and you know what you're surrounded by. That'll do for my Part 2. Thanks for subscribing. Click the link in the description. Every single week, we release new episodes of You'll Die Trying, my podcast. My single yet is number 14 at Radio Nationwide, number 16 on Billboard. Click the link in the description to stream it now. Save it, share it, send it, save it. And be sure to stick around for all kinds of content right here exclusive to YouTube. Subscribe, click the bell so you can be notified, and we'll see you at part 3 of the next whatever, or part 1 of the next whatever. But be you, be kind, keep showing up for yourself. And last but not least, the studio's almost done. It's almost done. Like, forgive all this. This is going to look good. Just hold tight.